the entertainment highlight of the week.
Red Ray Gun Limited presents
The Benji and Nick Show.
Hello.
Hello.
And now it's time for Loch Ness, the card game.
Just got your cards ready? Yeah, shuffle them.
Could you shuffle your pack?
Okay, who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Dealer's choice.
Yeah.
It says goodness.
Well, that's not very fair, because mine says, good golly, Miss Molly.
Hold on a sec. This one says goodness as well.
I feel that these cards are rigged and I don't like it. This one says goodness as well.
Oh no! Oh no! Mine says Loch Ness.
Yeah, there we go. That's what I thought. I'm not falling for this tomfoolery, this nastiness. Oh dear.
That was Loch Ness, the card game. It's not really a card game, and it's not really about Loch Ness. And the game was devised by Colin Smith, who posted a picture of the card game on Twitter, didn't he?
You know, it could work as a rather good, silly little card game. You have loads and loads of good things, and then somewhere in there is one Loch Ness. Or at least a goodness. No, it would have to be goodness, wouldn't it? And then you flip the goodness over, yeah. But the idea could be quite fun. Yeah.
Well, I think you're missing the point by trying to work it out and make sense of it.
No, I'm thinking potential ideas here, Nick. Diversitising, whatever that word means. Diversifying.
Diversitising. That's like doing diverse advertising. Anyway, I'm not Benji.
And I'm not Nick. But what we both do is talk about cult television, TV from the past.
Yes.
TV that you might remember, TV you might want to forget, and just TV that you sort of think, oh, blimey, forgot that even existed.
Yes.
We talk about it and give you our verdict.
Yeah. And the question is, by constantly living in the past, are we infantilizing ourselves?
Well, quite. I mean, you know, this is very
just
true.
Being children?
We are, though, aren't we? But are we? Because, you know, you can watch things from the past that aren't necessarily infantile.
And also, a lot of the things you watch from the past, you know, they were before you were born. So are you embryonicizing yourself?
Oh, blimey, yeah. Am I twinkling in my eye in myself? I mean, the reason I love things from a different, I suppose, generation to mine is it's the closest I will get to stepping into a bygone era.
So it's time travel for you.
It is a bit of time travel. It's sort of, I love the way I prefer it. I find it calming and interesting, and you know, there's something nice about it. I like the idea that things were simpler. I like simplicity, and I feel that the modern age is far too complicated for my liking.
Well, the more you understand, the more the wise person realizes, the less you understand. Anyway, this week we're chatting about Crime Traveller. 1997 Saturday night BBC One slice of sci-fi that was absolutely vilified and never saw the light of day again. Now, I've written here that we'll be trying to hook up with Jamie Anderson, but he has told me, despite the fact that he's the son of the late, great Jerry Anderson, that there is no way that he'll be available today.
Oh, that's disappointing, isn't it?
It is,
That's
yeah. We normally have a quick chin wag about something or other, but last week he did make a full-blooded appearance, didn't he? You know, properly recorded and everything, not just recorded off of my phone.
I've got an idea. Why don't we phone the speaking clock? Because they're always there. You know,
that's true.
Maybe we'll do that. That could be fun.
Yeah. Okay, well, bear that in mind. In a moment, we'll be reading out a selection of your emails sent to podcast@nicholasbriggs.com. Keep them coming! But first, a quick mention of what we've been watching. Now, I've written down a few things that I wanted to mention. Did you want to mention something first, Ben?
Yeah, I've been. I was talking to at this earlier. I've actually been watching a really old film called The Stagecoach, with John Wayne in it as the Ringo Kid.
Isn't it just called Stagecoach?
It might. Yeah, I think it is just called Stagecoach. You might be right. I don't
know. Check it out. It was remade in the 1960s, I want to say.
It is just called Stagecoach. This is the version that was made in 1939.
Wow.
John Ford directed film, so it's going to be a rocker. It is hailed as like the sort of film that kick-started the Western sort of genre in a way, kind of the Western popularity. But it's a really good film. It's really well made. It really nails that style and the atmosphere and the shots. But the most interesting thing about it is, well, there's two things that are really interesting. The first is the time in which this was made was just kind of after the Great Depression. And so what's really interesting about this film is that all the heroes are anti-heroes. So you've got John Wayne is an ex-criminal, and the other two heroes in this are a prostitute and a drunk doctor, a real alcoholic as well. I mean, he just hammers that drink. But the villain of the piece is a banker. Now, isn't that interesting of the time, you know? It's kind of very much... I mean, John Wayne is very much, anyway, I think, about, like, giving up he's always about going for the pure American life and leaving the bad things behind. But it's interesting to see him in this context, with all this going on. But the thing that I really like about the film is how ambitious it all is in the sense that just the vastness of it all. They've got huge, like a great bit with the Apaches take on the cavalry, and it's a huge sequence, and it's just looks really expensive and impressive for its time. Yeah. There's some quite hairy stunts, as we were discussing earlier, Nick. There's a chap on there who climbs onto the horses and then gets shot, and falls through and underneath them and the carriage. And I mean, it was one of the... I rarely flinch at TV, but I really flinched. I thought, because I thought he could die doing that.
Gosh.
But it's a lovely film. You'd never think that it was made in 1939 because it's so ahead of its time.
They remade it in 1966.
Who was in it? Interestingly,
Anne Margaret, Red Buttons, Michael Connors, Alex Ford, Bing Crosby.
Okay, yeah.
Bob Cummins. Slim Pickens, I think he played the Doctor. He wasn't the Doctor in the original, was it? Interestingly, the music was by Jerry Goldsmith.
Yeah, well, what a claim to fame. I dare say the music would be better than the film. I dare.
I just thought that Slim Pickens was in the original as well. I don't know whether he was.
Let me have a look on the...
Also, they remade it again in 1986 as a TV movie.
That's sort of what Westerns became, in a way, wasn't it? They started out as the pinnacle of movies, and then they got relegated to the pinnacle of daytime television, Western movies being on the TV, and then it sort of just became Western TV movies.
Well, it had Chris Christopherson and Johnny Cash in it.
That's pretty good. Johnny Cash is the Wild West, isn't he, really? Or was, rather.
I walk the line.
I'd like to see a bit of a revival of the Western genre. I think it's been long enough that you could really have some fun with it again.
Well, there have been quite a few notable Western films over the last few years. But, I mean, the whole difficult issue for it is the whole business about Native Americans, isn't it, really? And the injustice of how they were treated.
It's very true.
And a kind of, something approaching a genocide committed, really. That's probably an outrageous thing to say. Perhaps people should write in and inform me of the wrongness of my point of view there. But there were certainly some very dodgy things happened. And also the way it was represented in films with everyone wearing Stetsons and everything and everyone being clean shaven, that's photographs from the time show that was largely not true. So
the term Western cowboy, is they weren't even called cowboys, they were called cattlemen.
It's just like it's a completely fictionalized element of American history, isn't it, really? It's like a fantasy. It's like another world that never really existed. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why it proves so popular, I think, because it bears no relationship to reality whatsoever. So, more sort of reconstructing of the real past in more recent Westerns is quite sort of seductive, isn't it? It's sort of like lifting the lid on the real stuff. But you've still got... Who did The Quick and the Dead? Was that... The
Quick and the
That was
Dead.
with Sharon Stone playing the lead in that, where she was a gunfighter. I liked that
1995.
film. Yeah, it's a great film, but
Gene
again,
Hackman, Russell Crowe as well, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
They had Deadwood as well, I suppose, that series. And Hell on Wheels. I don't know. I think there's a bit of a charm to it, but then I suppose maybe I'm of the generation. Even growing up, I remember playing cowboys and Indians at school. So I don't know if kids even play that anymore. But certainly growing up, it was like, we're the cowboys and you're the Indians, and we're going to fight. And
I remember a very questionable Tommy Cooper sketch, because he used to do comedy sketches as well as his magic tricks. Tommy Cooper, if you didn't know, is a British light entertainment magician whose tricks always deliberately went wrong. And on his show, I remember one, he was sitting on a park bench reading a newspaper, and a kid runs along dressed as a cowboy with his toy gun and says, "Oh, the Indians are coming, the Indians are coming." He goes, "All right, son, all right." "No, but the Indians are coming." Yeah, all right. And he dashes off, and then suddenly Tommy Cooper is attacked by allegedly real Native Americans who sort of like tomahawk him, and you just think, that's actually not funny though, is it?
I'd say that's the type of thing I'd find quite amusing.
The joke is he gets murdered.
He gets murdered by a bunch of
who are running around in a park in 1970s Britain. That's obviously. I also remember Des O'Connor doing a sketch where he was in the bath playing with the model Stingray, and then suddenly it became an episode of Stingray with the real Stingray going around and everything. I wonder whether that's Googleable. I don't know.
Oh, look.
Des O'Connor and Stingray. Sorry, I was just talking to Cavan Scott the other day, and he mentioned that he was interviewing Des O'Connor's wife about Doctor Who. If you don't know who Des O'Connor is, I daren't tell you.
And don't ask Eric Morecambe.
Yeah. Yes. Morecambe and Wise were always.
Yeah, it's on. You can find it on YouTube. The Stingray thing.
Really? Wow, how about that? The Des O'Connor Show, 1964. Now, isn't that frightening that I remember that?
his hairbrush fires out of the bath, then he turns around and one of the puppets comes through the door. How funny.
Goodness me, so Jerry Anderson must have been involved in this.
Oh, brilliant. Good
We're
old
just
Des.
watching it now, aren't we?
Yeah, we are just watching it.
He's just going la da 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 da. Stand by for action.
It's very well done.
Stingray just came out from between his legs and has landed in his hand. Oh. The whole Stingray music, and the taps are whizzing round. Oh my God. Look at that. Commander Shaw's at the window. Great marks for Des O'Connor's shocked reactions. What's happening
He really
in the bath
goes for
now?
it, doesn't he? He really goes for it.
Oh no, Terrorfish has just come out from between his legs. It's just really weird, isn't it, that these things always come out from between his legs. He's hitting them with his... Whoever thought... What is that?
Just class, isn't it? Class.
His brush has just... what would you call that? Taken off, yes. It's just... Who would have thought you'd be getting those marinas at the bathroom door? Who'd have thought that you'd just get a commentary of Des O'Connor in a Stingray sketch in 1964? I can't be remembering it from 1964. It must have been repeated. Even though I was born in 1961, I'd have to have a pretty impressive memory, wouldn't I?
You have got a very impressive memory.
Full of rubbish.
That's the best things to remember, isn't it?
The trivia. Shall I tell you what I've been watching?
Yes, please.
I have subscribed to BritBox, which you've been very vocal in your criticism of, because there's enough old stuff there to keep me interested. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Yeah, that's one of the few ones on there that I thought looked quite good, actually.
Oh, Amazing.
I always remember that on offer in HMV, which is a chain over here. That used to, I don't know if they still exist in some places, don't they?
They do.
Chain that sells DVDs and things. I always remember it was always on offer.
Yes, I bought it years ago and lent it to a friend, and they never gave it back. So James Campbell, if you're listening to this, will you give me back my DVD of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy? But anyway, I've never watched it. I've only watched about the first 10 minutes and thought, oh God, this is a bit dry and stale, isn't it? But I was in the right mood for it. My goodness, it's brilliant. I want to see the film again now, the one with...
the new one, isn't it? The modern one.
Yeah, well, a few years ago now. With Gary Oldman in... Because this... I don't recognise any of the story from the movie. Interesting. But the thing is, it has cliffhangers that are as dull as this, right? Here's one of the cliffhangers. I think I'd better go to Oxford. That's the cliffhanger.
That's almost worthy of Dangerous Knowledge, isn't it?
Yeah. Peter Grimwade is one of the production assistants.
Fair play. That's pretty...
And guess who turns up in the last episode? That really terrible actor who was in the last episode... who was in all of Earthshock on the ship. He wasn't in all of it. He was the nasty man who was in League with the Cybermen.
Which one was that?
The chap.
Him, that guy,
yeah.
the snidey one.
Yes.
Oh yeah. He's not that great, is he?
So Peter Grimwade obviously met him on that production. That's what I'm saying.
Him on.
I also watched a little bit of the Ipcress File, which Benji and I had a little pre-podcast chat about, because it's just, I love that movie so much. Michael Caine, the first Harry Palmer movie.
Great soundtrack by John Barry.
Just amazing, and just I love the way it's shot. You were saying you thought it was a bit irritating, but the director, what's his name? Sidney something Fury or something. That he nearly got sacked from the project, and he was taken off. It wasn't his cut. Peter Hunt cut it, but the producers, Harry Saltzman and whoever, had no confidence whatsoever in the way he was shooting it, because basically he was filling frames with people's shoulders or bits of chair or shooting through lampshades on the ceiling. Everything is a weird shot in the Ipcress File. And I think Peter Hunt might have gone back and shot a few extra bits, but I think it's largely due to Peter Hunt seeing what the chap was. What is that? The director, Sidney Fury? Have I got the name wrong? I want to say Billy Fury, but I think that was a pop star.
That was a pop star. Directed by Billy Fury. Directed by Sidney J. Fury.
Yeah, there you go.
Joseph Fury.
There you go. Oh, now we know his full name. What's his address?
21 Hampster Avenue. Brilliant.
What a convincing address to come up with. Hampster. Is there a Hampster Avenue, I ask myself.
If there isn't, well, let's have a look.
Google Maps.
Avenue.
Wow. It's just off Rodent Way.
Hampster Avenue.
And Mouse Close.
I can confirm that there isn't a Hampster Avenue.
Oh.
Is there Hampster Road?
What about a Gerbil Street?
There must be a Gerbil Street.
I don't know why that's funny. Gerbil Street. I live on Gerbil Street, yeah. Must hop off.
Sounds like one of those. It sounds like a sort of rubbish 1960s soap opera, doesn't it? Hey, Mrs. So and So lives in Gerbil Street. You know, there's no Gerbil Street either.
It's all just in Gerbil Street. It's all just wood chippings and old bits of newspaper. And there's a big wheel to run around in.
That's how they get their power.
So we will get our power. Couldn't help it, could I? The Ipcress File, lovely. Just go and watch it. Seriously, it's
great thriller.
All three of the Harry Palmer cinema movies are brilliant. There were a couple of TV movies not worth. Bullet to Beijing.
Bullet to Beijing, and what was the other one called?
Bullet to somewhere else.
Bullet Train. I remember thinking
in the bin.
Funeral in Berlin. I didn't like the music in that film. I was quite let down. We went from John Barry to like generic movie score, only redeemed by the fun opening titles where it sounds very Germanic.
Yes, I'd go along with that. But the music for $1 Billion Brain is
great.
Amazing.
One of the best scores, that one.
Who did it? I can't remember. Skidoo.
$1 Billion Brain.
I can never remember.
Richard Rodney Bennett.
There you go. All three of them. And I think you've watched this before. I watched this back in the day, but I was too young for it really, and I thought it was boring. But I love it now. Danger UXB.
Yeah, I've
set
seen
during the
bits
Second
and
World
bobs
War.
of that. Yeah.
Anthony Andrews as the young bomb disposal officer thrown in at the deep end, and Deborah Watling.
Can you believe? Wow.
As the biggest tart on earth. Basically, any bloke, she just immediately takes her clothes off and goes, "Oh, come on then."
Good old
And then,
Debs.
but nobody wants to, and she looks absolutely ravishing, if perhaps one might say in an old-fashioned way, somewhat cheap. I mean, peroxide is not an extreme enough word to cover how blonde her hair is. It's like she's painted it with emulsion. She's just really just constantly exposing herself.
Well, they're in the bomb squad. I'm just loading it up now.
During air raids, you see, she has a certain inclination that comes over her.
She does have very, very blonde hair, doesn't she? Which looks strange because I don't really ever think of her with blonde hair. So.
And I find it quite disturbing because, I met her many, many times and worked with her many times over the years, the late, great Deborah Watling. And that she does that little saucy chuckle a lot in this, which I used to hear her do a lot. But hearing her do it whilst she's partially naked is slightly disturbing to me. Anyway, listen, let's go on to the emails, shall we? Sent to podcast@nicholasbriggs.com. I'll read the first one.
Okay.
It's called How to Read the Radio Times Time Slots, The Revenge from River Jones. This is quite harsh.
River
Dear
Jones.
Nicholas, apologies for the tone of this email, but you did bang on, sounding very irritated about the BBC showing War of the Worlds instead of Dark Materials on Sunday, which has prompted me to write in. If you had taken the time to understand the BBC do show dramas at different time slots and that his Dark Materials is on at 8 p.m. and the War of the Worlds on at 9 p.m, you would not have given me the opportunity to be so condescending. Big laughy emoji. I know you are of a certain age, but please try not to move to a conclusion before you have checked the facts. I'm being rather pompous here. I know these senior moments are becoming more frequent. This incarnation wearing a bit thin, ? And a smile upside down. Love the podcast. Down with the tripod.
Shut up, River.
P.S. I still think River Song is the first true female Doctor Who. Way more of a doc than Jodie. Ooh! Just check out the Big Finish audio diaries for evidence. Thank you for that entirely outrageous email, River Jones. Yes, of course. I found out literally minutes after recording that podcast that both his Dark Materials and War of the Worlds were on the same evening. What a bumper evening.
It's an evening gone, isn't it? Zoom.
Zoom, there it was, gone. Talking of which...
I didn't get round to watching the War of the Worlds. I started it, and I say started as in I watched a minute and then I was whisked away to do something else. But it's got a real mixed reception, hasn't it? Which is interesting.
Yes.
A lot of people saying it's brilliant, and some people saying not enough is happening, or some people saying they disagree with what's happening.
I'll disagree with that.
There was a lot of people saying like, no, it's not this, it's not this. But interesting enough, let's hear from one of our listeners here. This is Stephen Ward. Subject the in brackets war brackets S of the worlds. Sent at 23:26, so from the future, on the 20th of November 2019. Much like 2005, when there were multiple film adaptations of War of the Worlds, and 2018, when there were 3 audio adaptations, this year there are 2 TV miniseries.
Miniseries.
The Miniseries of Dr. Mazugu.
When it's all one word, I just want to say miniseries.
I must miniserize this point with you, Mr. Briggs. There's the BBC one with Rafe Spall entitled The War of the Worlds, But Canal Plus and Fox have done another, simply called War of the Worlds, and has come out at basically the same time. It stars Gabriel Byrne and Ty Tennant, written by Howard Overman, who did the BBC Dirk Gently series, and is set in modern-day Britain and France. It is super dark and grim, reminding me more of Day of the Triffid or it says The Survivors here, but it's actually just Survivors. I'm 2.5...
What's that funny noise in the background? It's not Martians,
we've got some people rendering the wall outside the studio and doing bits and bobs, so they're... Yes, I must apologise.
Sounds like a dog going...
Yes, that is the pack of dogs currently ravaging my feet.
From Survivors, yes.
From Survivors. I'm 2.5 episodes in, and I'm not sure I want to continue because... as well made as it is, they do not spare the children. Eek. Ooh, it sounds dark. Sounds dark.
Yes, I mean, I saw Georgia Tennant had tweeted something about it because Ty is in it, and where's it on? Where do you find it?
Good question. Let's have a look.
I'd like to see it. It's not on the BBC, is it?
Fox Networks Group Studio Canal.
Really? That's interesting you should say that.
Release consists of 8 episodes. Release and so.
No?
Canal Plus and Fox have the rights to release the series in YouTube in Africa. Doesn't say. I imagine it's done secretly on the internet.
What a way to release a TV show.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to see if
so
we can.
What were the other ones that were done in 2005 then? I only know the Tom Cruise one that we spoke about.
Let's have a look. List of War of the Worlds adaptation.
Thank goodness for the internet. All you'd need to do for this podcast is just listen to us looking things up on the internet.
That's it, isn't it?
What's that? Maybe we should have done some research before we started recording.
Let me look that one up. So we've got 1993, there was a planned animated series. 2001, it's Justice League, whatever it is. The internet is not giving me the answers that I seek.
2005, nothing in 2005.
No. 2005, La Guerrera de los Mundos radio broadcast, whatever that means.
Right. But they said there were multiple film adaptations.
I'm going to
That's
type
what
in
Stephen Ward says.
2005.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the direct-to-video, 2005.
Oh, yeah, what was that?
The classic War of the Worlds, authentic movie adaptation of the H.G. Wells classic novel, starring Anthony Piana as the writer, Jack Clay as Ogilvy, James Lathrop, don't know who that is, the artilleryman, Susan Gosforth as the wife.
So, this sounds like it's an amateur production.
Made by Pendragon Pictures, who, strangely enough, I think I've actually heard of.
God, that noise is getting very loud.
Yes, I must apologise. There's not a lot I can do.
That's right. H.G. Wells' War of the World, Pendragon Pictures. Is the first of 3 WeWork direct-to-video film versions, first appearing in 2005. It's the first film set in the novel's original 1898. Wow. Not to be confused with H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, The Asylum film. Direct-to-video science fiction horror film produced by The Asylum and directed by David Michael Latt.
Yeah, I've just got this one up here. Known as Invasion. Starring C. Thomas Howell. Oh, there is an awful lot of them, aren't there? They also did a sequel, War of the Worlds 2, The Next Wave.
Gosh.
War of the Worlds 2, The Next Wave. Just goes to show there's a lot of people doing War of the Worlds.
Yes, I'm just looking at the trailer for it. Yes, it's a terrible trailer with lots of bad video effects. The music will be stuck in your head for hours, it says. Oh, really bad CG. Oh dear. Yep. The reason the music would be stuck in your head for hours is because they keep repeating the same phrase of it. Oh, this is definitely looks like an amateur movie. Oh dear. Are you watching any of this?
No,
There's loads of people being turned into skeleton by heat rays.
Which one are you watching? The Pendragon one?
Yeah. It's just people standing around looking like they're dancing with the heat. Oh, it's just ridiculous.
Let's have a look.
It's just amateur.
No, I don't want to see somebody talking about the box that it came in.
I know, that's the one.
Well, the one that bloke saying, and this is the box that it came in.
Oh, maybe not then. It's just...
Oh, yes, no, you are right. Yep, here we go.
Yeah.
And he's showing there's like 2 little pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have a look.
Yeah, you get the picture. That you
Those
can tell
heat ray
almost
thing,
immediately.
why do they always hold one arm up? Every one, if you look, every single one, they just hold one arm up.
Interestingly, the wobbly thing that's dispensing the heat ray, that's exactly as it's described in the book. The spinning disc.
God, yeah. The effects are terrible. The fire's really bad.
Yeah, it's just
even the horses had enough. Why does everybody throw their arms up?
Well,
and it's only one arm. It's really irritating. They're like doing
we want more arms in the air.
They're doing like a bad impression of an elephant.
Next email. Note from Ben Follis to your Facebook page, The Benji and Nick Show, Cult TV. Ben Follis says, hi guys. Oh, but by the way, it was sent in 1504.
Good year.
Is that a good year?
Good year, yeah.
Hi guys, I was thinking about your discussion about actors that had achieved the trinity of sci-fi roles from a couple of weeks back and realised that Simon Pegg has clocked the 3 with Doctor Who, Star Trek and Star Wars, The Force Awakens. I think you might have mentioned him.
Anyway. I discounted him because he did the movies and not the TV series. The reboot of Star Trek, you see, because I don't think of that as like Star Trek. But that's just me. But if you count it as Star Trek, then I suppose one could say, counting video games and stuff. Yeah, we'll count him. He's done it. He's in there.
Well, it's down to personal interpretation. I also realise that a very honourable mention should go to Julian Glover for Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, Doctor Who, Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade, and James Bond for Your Eyes Only. That's some catalogue.
It certainly is.
I'm not sure how relevant this is now after the original discussion, but I just thought I would mention it. Well, why not, Ben? I say, why not?
Very good.
Many thanks for the entertaining podcasts, or all the entertaining podcasts. Well, good. What about the ones that weren't entertaining? Have you ever considered doing The Man from U.N.C.L.E.? Now, that's interesting, isn't it? I recently picked up the DVD of the first 5 U.N.C.L.E. movies and have enjoyed giggling at them. Most recently, I watched The Karate Killers. Oh, it's fantastic. With my mum, who absolutely loved the series back in the day. So that was a treat to watch it with her and see her taken back. Did she return, though? Though there were not many karate killers in the film. But I still enjoyed it. Many thanks, Ben. Have you ever watched Man from U.N.C.L.E.?
Oh, yeah, years ago. It's good. You can't
I reckon that should...
I was going to say, you can't knock a bit of Man from U.N.C.L.E.
No. I reckon that it possibly holds the record for the most different versions of its theme tune. I don't know. See, what do you think about that, listeners? I think there are loads of different versions. It's essentially the same tune, but they rearrange it a lot.
They just
and of course in the movies
and changed it
it's
around.
Rearranged a lot.
Yeah. Maybe
I whacked in an extra email this time. Do you want to handle that?
Yeah, I'd love to. Oh, mayhap. Subject cat weasels. Are definitely going to. This was sent at 9:18, very very early on the time of civilization. Sent on the 19th of the 11th, 2019, from Michael Priest. Dear Nick and Benji, long-time listener, first-time emailer. Welcome to the gang. Welcome. Sit down. There's a chair over there. No, not that one. The chair. Honestly, people always going to the wrong chair. I love listening to your opinions of programs that in most cases I'm aware of but have not watched. One of your early reviews was of Cat Weasel, a program that I was a bit too young to have seen the first time round, but always fancied the idea of watching. Your discussion of it made me even more keen to watch it. I couldn't have believed my luck when I saw that Talking Pictures was starting to show it at the weekends.
Yeah.
So far, I've enjoyed the episodes show and hope they plan to show Series 2. It's great hearing the little catchphrases you sometimes use in your podcast, and I have a small smile to myself when I hear one.
Mayhap the telling bone. Oh,
Nothing
bird
works.
of night, hoot not. Oh, ziba, ziba.
Dalme, Dalme, Adonai.
O daw, reveal thy secrets to me. Oh, ziba, 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 zibo.
So good, so good. Takes me back to the days of watching Wurzel Gummidge when I was a child.
Wursel, wursel. Raises it. What wonderful imaginations your two children do have.
Oh, so good.
I am not a crowman, Wurzel. I am the crowman.
Which is funny because he's not. And then later they contradict that exact thing by saying that there are many crowmen all over the world, and even meets one when he goes down under in Wurzel Down Under. I wanted to thank you for reminding me about Catweasel and pointing me in the direction of Talking Pictures.
Wow.
Yes, well, it is the best channel on the TV right now. Regards, Mike Priest. P.S. For the record, I loved Crime Traveller. Interesting. Interesting.
So, and now, funnily enough, Crime Traveller. It's Saturday night tea time in 1997, all over again.
I think
Where
I'll
to
skip
begin?
to the hard stuff. It's a funny one, isn't it? It is a funny one. Crime Traveller, which has so many slick ingredients to it, doesn't it, really? It's got...
yes.
It looks great, it sounds great, and, it should be great. But there's something about it that really lacks for me.
Yeah.
And that's Nick's phone going off. Here's Michael French coming to say, no, it's actually very good. I'm very proud of it.
It would. I have to try every pocket except the one that's got the phone in. Just stop that. Thank you. Yeah. I tell you what the problem. There are two problems.
Okay.
Anthony Horowitz, who wrote it. That's the first problem. It's just it's handled in a really mediocre way.
It's dull,
and
isn't
also,
it? Dull.
Yeah, dull. But this was before Doctor Who came back, and this was at a time when the BBC thought no one liked science fiction. So what they were trying to do was meld science fiction into something that would work for people who didn't like it. So what you've got here is something that people who don't like science fiction won't like it, and people who like science fiction won't like it either. So they put the two stools there and they fell right between them. I mean, it kind of looks like a slick soap opera, doesn't it?
It does. It looks, I would say it looks very much of its time as well. It's very 1997 in the way that Teddy looked back then.
Totally. And the top end of it,
Yeah, it's
very competently done.
I can't
There's
emphasise
nothing crummy
that
about
enough. That it is good. It's slick is the word, isn't it? It is a slick release, but it's just rubbish.
The other problem is the cast. The cast are okay, but when it comes to anything to do with science fiction or the sort of mystery element of it, the fact that people don't know that there's a time travel thing going on, it's like the director has leant forward to them and said, I want you to make this bit as unconvincing as possible. like you've no idea what you're doing and you're slightly embarrassed about having to say these words. And Michael French, who's perfectly serviceable as a leading man and was really a hot TV property because he'd been massively successful in EastEnders, interestingly kept going back to it. I was reading his biography. He went back in like 2013 and 2015, I don't think he could find a place outside of it, really. He was so popular and the ladies loved him. And some of the lads too, I imagine. But when it comes to the sci-fi stuff, he kind of goes on... you go, we've time travelled. Oh, it's amazing.
I found him
seriously?
utterly dreadful throughout the whole thing. And, he is, he can act. But I just found him irritating. I found his character smug. He was just a smug... dare I say it, smug git. And And I just all round. I had no idea who he was meant to be, because he was meant to be working for some detective inspection unit, blah blah blah. But then the police are just like, no, you can't go in there. And so he whacks a policeman and gets nothing. They don't do anything. They just say, right, go in this room, please. I mean, there's just loads of silly things that don't make sense. And then at the end, they decide he's a bit of a geezer and he goes in the betting shop. It's like they don't really know what he's about. He's not very fleshed out anyway. He
doesn't win the money, though, because time, when he looked at the betting slip, it was blank.
Oh, but
there are rules about time. She says, like she knows. And her dad invented a time machine and got lost in time, and now she's still using it.
And how come as well, this is something that, come...
She's rubbish as well.
She's rubbish. But how come they say that the injuries that you get when you time travel disappear, but then your memories of the events don't? So you remember everything, but any physical things don't. The problem with this is it emphasises about the rules of time, but it doesn't really know what the rules are, and the whole thing anyway.
It's not credible, even in a mad sci-fi way, is it?
It's not credible, and also, I'm just going to be brutally honest here, and even though it's the premise of the show, when I want to watch time travel, I want to watch time travel. I can't emphasise that enough. Time travel. I don't want to see boring time travel. Let's time travel 15 minutes ago and go to Asda to get that last turkey before somebody else buys it.
Somehow they seem to think that by making it dull, they make it more believable. But actually, by making it so dull, they have to invent so many silly rules to make it work that it's... all science fiction is, to coin Tom Baker's word for it, preposterous. But it's just a question of with how much style and gusto you present your preposterousness. And this is so tentative and so embarrassed about being science fiction that it kind of screws it up right royally. And Anthony Horowitz's writing in this is, I recognise a lot of his phraseology because I've read a lot of his books to my son, or the...
Artemis Fowl, wasn't it? Did he do that?
Not Artemis Fowl. I don't know whether he did actually. The the annoying little spy boy. What's his name?
Oh, who did Artemis Fowl? Just quickly. It wasn't by him at all. That was by...
No, it was. I thought it was.
I know the annoying...
Alex Rider.
I used to read Alex Rider as a kid, yeah.
Well, I've read a lot of those out, and I have to say a nice thing about Anthony Horowitz, the very, very successful author, is that his work is eminently speakable. I mean, I kind of, whenever Ben's into an Alex Rider book and I'm reading that to him at bedtime, I look forward to it because I know that with I won't have had to have looked at it before. I can just pick up Anthony Horowitz stuff, read it out loud and hardly make a mistake because there's something very speakable about his work, and I think that's to be commended. But he has certain turns of phrase and certain ways of just shoving explanations under the carpet, and you occasionally in his books hear some of that, and you get away with that kind of nonsense more in a book, because in a book you're the voice of the author and you just say it's true and so you accept it. But when you put it into a drama and characters have to sell that to the audience, it doesn't work, because as an audience member you just think, well, why would that idiot say that? Now someone's trying to hammer through your wall. Is it Anthony Horowitz?
Anthony saying,
I can hear this review.
You fool! Say something good. All right, I liked Foyle's War. A lot. Love Foyle's War.
There you go.
I
think he's at fault here. I think it's a total stinker. And the fact that... And why did Mike Priest, who just wrote in, why did he say he loved it? What's to love about it? It's... I thought it can't be that bad. And for 10 minutes I thought, that's not that bad. But Sue Johnston is terrible in it. She's not buying it at all. She's got a ridiculous haircut as well.
Yeah, she's definitely not buying it.
It's about 2 inches taller than any normal haircut should be.
A bit like a palm tree. It's just one of those things, unfortunately, where it doesn't really know. In fact, look at this. This is good. Somebody's actually put down the rules on the internet, the rules of time travel. Should we read them out to see what they are? So you cannot travel into the future. Holly explains that in the first episode. Okay, that's fine. I believe that. I like that line, actually. How can you travel to something that doesn't exist yet? I thought that's cool. The time travel machine sends the traveller back in time by a random interval. Usually this is about a day, but it may be as little as a few minutes or as much as a week. In the final episode of the series, it is found that the length of time travel back can be controlled by altering the length of the photon rods. So that's them setting up for series 2, which never happened.
Thank God.
You are not allowed to cheat. Holly explains this in the first episode in the lottery experiment, that any attempt to profit off time travel will inevitably fail. For instance,
It's not a lottery, it's a horse race.
For instance, if you go back in time and put a bet on a winning horse, the slip will disappear. So what does time?
It's not the slip that disappears; it's the writing on the slip.
The writing
that
on the
disappears.
slip, yeah. It says
Who wrote this nonsense?
Slade attempts to expose the loophole by memorising the winning lottery numbers and going back in time himself, reasoning that he can tell Holly the numbers so she can put the ticket on. However, this also doesn't work. How
What
does time
happens?
know these things?
Does horse poo come out of his mouth instead?
All attempts by Slade to contact her fail, and the numbers are later misread by his colleague. But who decides that? Why can't you cheat in time? Like, why can't you? There's nothing to say.
Because the writer has morals.
Because the writer has morals, but time.
Wouldn't it be more interesting if you could cheat and it was all chaos and everything became
Absolutely.
That would be exciting. If he was unscrupulous and started screwing things up, that would be exciting.
And you could have him being
wouldn't it?
secretive throughout the whole thing, and then in the end, it all comes to a head, and she's there, and you've been doing all this time.
Yeah,
meddling with
I mean,
all of this.
that would be dangerous and ragged at the edges. But the trouble is, everything in this is as neat as their horrible 1990s clothing, isn't it? Everything's sort of monochrome and not monochrome, but blocks of colour, like his horrible sandy coloured jacket that's too sandy coloured.
It's far too sandy coloured. Yeah, that's charity shop now. That's where that will be. But it's things,
no one will buy it.
But it's things like, you cannot change the past. One of the results of this restriction is that it affects the time traveller's journey back in time. I understand that, but equally, you can change things that might not necessarily affect you. Again, that would be fun. So,
yeah, I know. And if you say you can't change the past, then forget about time travel. I mean, they go back to find stuff out, don't they? That's what they do. They find out who did what, and
it's just such a boring use of time travel.
It's
just such a boring, mundane use of your time.
This program is boring rubbish and gets -5 exclamation marks from me.
Well, it's just. I think I can understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to give time travel a use and a sort of realism, but quite frankly, it doesn't really pay off for me, because you'd suck all the fun out of time travel and make it daft and pointless, and all this stuff about having to go back to the room at the exact moment, that's just a plot device to give some peril as to what they're doing. There's no particular there's nothing else in it.
But it all goes back. You can't really criticise it for the fiction it sets up, because those are the rules within that fiction. All you can say is that they don't sell those rules very convincingly, and B, those rules that they've created inhibit interesting drama. So they've saddled themselves with something that A, they can't sell to us, or indeed themselves. So they've made a complete cock-up of the whole thing. And I started this discussion. You were totally against it straight away. You texted me and told me how awful you thought it was, and I thought, that's a bit harsh. I mean, it was tolerable, but this is one of those occasions where our discussion has pushed me to the extremes, and I am now going to seek out everyone involved with Crime Traveller and subject them to something pretty unpleasant.
We should just sit them down to watch it, and I think that'd be enough.
That's true.
And
face your. And Anthony Horowitz is successful and rich enough. He doesn't need this to have been good, does he?
No. I mean, I had to do. I was saying this to you earlier. I started watching it, and I watched about, I think, 10 minutes in or so, and I thought, this is all right. And then it started getting a bit rubbish, and then I started getting annoyed at Michael French's character, Jeff Slade. And so I thought, and then I had to go and get Joe off and do something else. So I thought, right, well, and I was just dreading the idea of having to sit down and watch it all. So I thought, how can I consolidate this into watching this whilst not using up valuable time that can be used on more fun things? So I ended up going down the gym with my phone and subjected myself not just to exercise, which is horrible as well, but also crime. But I felt better at the end because I'd run off my frustration, and also it was dead time anyway, so I felt like Crime Traveller hadn't taken up my time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it gets. I'm going to give it a 1.
Wow!
And I'll tell you why I'll give it the 1, because it is a slick production, and I do like some of the, like I really like the effect in the room when all the walls went blue and up. I thought that was really fun.
Yeah, and I thought it was funny that line he said, well, what have you done, photocopied us?
Yeah, like that's great. Exactly.
That was
and
quite
the
funny.
music's very good. I like the music in it.
Well, it's very competent, isn't it?
It's very. The music made me actually think. I thought, wow, this is 1997. This is just before composing on a budget, like computer-wise, starts to become big. So this is like one of the last kind of dramas of its kind where you get a full orchestra. You know,
Is it really a full orchestra?
Well, it's a sizable amount of real people doing things.
Do you think so? I thought it was all keyboards and stuff.
I thought it sounded to me like it was real people. I interpreted it that way. It sounded too good to be.
There were samples around in 1997, you know.
Yeah, the Emu was a great sampler.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound that to me. I don't know. It
Naughty boy, Emu, naughty boy.
Music was by Anne Dudley. Who's Anne Dudley? This is interesting. She's worked in both classical. She's perhaps best known as one of the core members of Art of Noise, who I love. So of course that's why the music's good, because I love Art of Noise.
There you go.
Yeah, how interesting. Maybe it is all samples. I don't know. It didn't sound. It sounded too good to me.
I thought it was samples. Michael French is really trying to bash down your door there, isn't he?
He is.
I'm not rubbish. I'm not. I used to be. Do you know, Michael French is just a year younger than me, according to the internet, and I can't find any trace of him anywhere.
Yeah, he seems to have
He's not on the actors directory spotlight. He's not available for work. I hope he's all right. I mean, you know, we thought he was rubbish in this, but I don't want to wish the poor guy ill.
No, you know, he was good in EastEnders. He did Casualty and Holby. DL and Pascoe was his first role. Did he? So he's not michaelfrench.net. Let's see what that has to say.
Oh, I didn't look that up.
Michael
You young
French.
people are much better at looking at the internet than old farts like me.
Oh, blimey, check this out. Oh, hold on, I've got to disable my ad blocker. Give Michael French some money. Refresh. This is funny. It says here, this website is paparazzi free. Anything that invades Michael's privacy cannot be found here. In addition to the pap free, the site is also gossip free. Wow.
So not interesting in any way.
Wow, that's quite extreme, isn't it?
He's obviously been stung.
Yeah, maybe. The latest news from Michael French Net is Afternoon Play. This here, the Afternoon Play screen captures. Oh, just screen captures of Michael French. It's an unofficial website. That's why. Yeah.
What does it say about him?
Does it have any news, like Michael French news? Theatre. Is he doing any theatre?
I don't know. If you're the one looking at the website.
Last thing was Sound of Music in 2014.
Back in the First World War. Yeah,
really old days. His last... He's got Crime Traveller was listed on here. His last thing that he did, David Wicks 2014. So he's not done anything since then. So who knows? Has he got Twitter? Clearly not.
Not done anything except bitterly regretted Crime Traveller.
I wonder what the this is quite weird. Facebook here. We love Michael French, and there's also Michael French fans on. It's really, he is popular. You know, by
maybe he'll end up in Doctor Who because Chris Chibnall ran a show called Born and Bred that Rob Shearman wrote for, and Michael French was the star of it. You see Born and Bred there?
I've turned off the page now, but I'll take your word for it.
You can't be bothered to go back. I don't blame you.
Michael French is the type of guy that would turn up in Doctor Who, isn't he? Actually.
Yeah, I remember that Rob was told that Michael French looks good when he's running, so can you write a lot of scenes in where he's running?
Oh, bless him.
I love the things that people in television say. It's like when I was working for Family Affairs as a writer, and the amazing guff that the script editors came out with there. Like when I had someone saying a line, it was interrupted by someone else. The script editor said, "So, what? How do we know what this person's going to say next?" And I said, well, there are two things. I said, one is that actors are trained in this kind of thing. I am an actor, and you're told, you have to work out what it was you were going to say so you could be interrupted. She said, not on my actors, not our actors. I went, oh, okay. And the other thing, I said, and if you look here, after the person has finished interrupting them, they then carry on to say what they were going to say in the first place. And she treated this like, oh, Mr. Smartass, you've always got an answer. I thought, well, it's just there on the page. You can tell how much I irritated them. I could tell you many other stories about
just common sense, is it not, really?
Oh dear. Oh, she said, oh, you also don't want people interrupting each other because it's very difficult for the sound man.
No, it's not. If they're meant to interrupt each other, it's fine, isn't it?
I know.
The point of it.
She was just trying to. Oh, and she also said to me, this character here, that thing they say there. I said, yeah. They said it's not true. I said, no, they're in the middle of an argument and that person's exaggerating because they've lost their temper. No, our characters can't lie. I said, but it's not lying. It's just...
They're not saints, though, are they? Nobody.
Oh, no, none of our characters can lie. And then what was particularly annoying to her is that one of the producers, Colin Brake, who also has written for Big Finish, and I've known Colin off and on over the years, lovely man, he just came past the office and saw me and came in and said, hello, Nick, I heard you were writing on this. Is brilliant. So how's it going? And I said, oh, yeah, it's all fine, just a few things. He said, what do you mean? And all the problems that she'd outlined, I just put them to him. Without him knowing what she'd said, he completely contradicted her on every single point.
Really?
And he was her boss. And she hated me after that.
That's it.
Because he was kind of giving it the old sort of, so is that all right? That seems reasonable, doesn't it? I was going, yeah, what do we think? And she's like, yes, fine.
I hate you.
I mean, I could have written loads more episodes of Family Affairs, but I just couldn't stand it.
You couldn't stand it anymore. There's nothing wrong with that.
It was just so bloody dull.
But you could always write the new Crime Traveller.
Yeah, well, that's my next big project for Big Finish. No!
Get Michael French in. Get him in to do something.
I'm sure there's a huge demand for it.
Probably is. But the thing is, as awful as this sounds, it could be very good. It could be done very well. It could be, but it isn't.
Yeah. But it's Anthony Horowitz, so it would cost an absolute fortune to get the rights. So it's a victim of its own incredible success.
I doubt it'll ever be repeated as well.
No, why would you want to pay anyone who was involved with that?
I mean, is there a Crime Traveller fan site? Is there a community? Does it exist?
I think there's a grave somewhere.
Grave somewhere with a bit of dog poo wiped on it.
Here rests Crime Traveller.
Well, Cultbox has reviewed it, as has Den of Geek. Oh, another one, you're using an ad blocker. It gets so my wick, this does.
I would like to go back in time and erase it.
There is a Crime Traveller. Yeah, but that's the funny thing, isn't it? There is a Crime Traveller fan page here.
Yes.
For Detective Jeff Slade and Scientist Holly Turner, there is a new tool in their fight against crime. It's just telling me what it is. Fan fiction. Oh, no. Oh, dear, oh, dear. Shall I give you a little section of it?
Yeah.
Let's see if there's anything amusing in there.
No, is the answer. No. I can see the look of emptiness in your eyes.
Oh, no, it gets... Holly would never forget what happened next for as long as she lived. Cursing because he couldn't think of how to put it into words. Slade kissed her. Not because of a dream, or to put on a show for somebody. And when he sensed that she wasn't pulling away, he deepened the kiss. Trying to hold closer and closer until they were one, Holly finally had to break the kiss in order to breathe. Slade, she whispered.
And then straight back in again.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Now, that's classic fan fiction, isn't it? Having the characters make it out.
It is, always is.
Apparently, there was a lot of Star Trek fan fiction with Kirk and Spock.
There was loads of it with Jamie and the Second Doctor, isn't there?
No.
Yeah, of course there is. Come on.
I'm so naive.
Dear, fan fiction's the funniest though. You can always have a good laugh with that sort of stuff.
Some people would accuse me of writing it. Anyway.
So you don't write crime traveller fan fiction.
No,
but there we go.
What's wrong with me? I've got no imagination.
You've lost your way. But interesting. It's always very good to cover all these things. And unfortunately, I'm so sorry for all you crime traveller fans out there, or even the writer of that fan fiction who might be a listener. I'm sorry that we didn't like it. Wasn't our cup of tea.
I'm sorry we didn't like the deepening of the kiss.
Yeah, I just like the bit she held on for as long as she could before gasping for breath. Oh, blimey, nearly suffocated.
Can't be very passionate in the moment, can it? If you're kissing someone and all you can think of is, I really could breathe.
Sitting there trying to plan a casserole.
What was he doing? Holding her nose as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
holding her head
she
on
could
the
breathe
water.
through her nose. I mean, that is kissing rule 101, isn't it? Make a lot of noise breathing through your nose while you're kissing. I hear that your partner will always like that.
Have a tissue. But no, oh dear. Perhaps that's rule number 875 of time travel. Don't breathe through your nose. Perhaps that's it. Perhaps that's the rule. Kiss people only by clamping onto their face. Like
Who
a
played
plunger.
that part, by the way? Holly Hunter? No, what was her name? Holly Hollis.
It was played by. I've got a pen in my mouth. Chloe Annett.
Now she played Kachansky in
she
Red
certainly
Dwarf,
did,
didn't she?
yeah.
She was like flavour of the month for a certain amount of time, wasn't she? And I thought she was pretty poor in Red Dwarf as well.
I've got a bit of a conspiracy I'm about to start now. Her last job was in 2014 as well. It both stopped in 2014.
I think it's something to do with time travel.
I think they're stuck in the loop.
I think they stayed too long before the photocopier thing started again, and they're stuck in a time loop. Thank goodness.
All making sense now, isn't it? It's all making absolute sense.
And Anthony Horowitz was just trying to communicate their plight to the rest of the world.
But please, it's not that bad. I mean, interestingly, so she did Crime Traveller, and then she did Red Dwarf, and after that, she was fine because she was just Red Dwarf, did University Challenge, more Red Dwarf. Then Doctors
University Challenge.
She did, as herself. She was on there, and then she went into Casualty, as was Michael French.
What did she get hurt?
She was in the episode Passions and Convictions, where Michael French kissed her and she suffocated or something. Dear, oh dear.
It's his trick of kissing people and pinching their nose at the same time. Come in. Death kisser. Now, come on, that's surely something that Anthony Horowitz can write.
The death
kisser. Yeah.
He
pinched her nose. He gave it back later, though.
Rule number 741 of kissing back in time. Hold people's noses whilst, I don't know, locking them in a cupboard. Dear, oh dear.
Well, this would normally be when we called Jamie, but he said he's not available.
That's right, we'll phone the speaking clock.
I'll ask him. Still not available? To which he won't reply.
So 1, 2, 3. So I rarely have to dial a new number on this phone. Oh, there we go.
Welcome to the 3 voicemail.
Oh, they've changed it. It's now just the voicemail number. That's rubbish.
What? Voicemail on the speaking clock.
No, it's the number that was the speaking clock number is now my voicemail number. Phone number.
That's ridiculous.
Speaking clock number.
What are we going to do next week, by the way?
Go on a caravan holiday into Devon or something. I don't know. What could we do next week? I suppose.
I think we should watch Danger UXB.
Yeah, well, I don't see why not.
Let's do it. Episode 1 of Danger UXP. I've got a feeling that episode 1 is better than all the other episodes put together. But anyway,
I'm more than pleased to watch a bit of wartime fun. And that, yeah.
Well, it's a no-show from Jamie Anderson. Just want to remind you
Come
all to
come on,
keep sending your emails into podcast@nicholasbriggs.com. I'm going to say goodbye.
Yeah, well, I suppose I might as well say goodbye, seeing as you're saying goodbye. I mean, it'll just be me on my own. So,
you've not found the speaking clock?
Oh, I stopped looking.
Oh, don't bother. It's fine.
Yeah, there's not. No.
Just phone Anthony Horowitz instead.
I have got his number. So, can you tell us about Crime Traveller?
Get stuffed!
Get stuffed. I'm writing a new one. It's much better. It's called Time Criminals.
It's called Traveller in Time.
Traveller in Time. But the difference of this one is you can go forward in time, but you can't go back. And
Is that our Anthony Horowitz piece? I don't think so. Hello, I'm Anthony Horowitz.
Hello, call me Anton. All right, well, yeah, it's been a pleasure, and we'll see you next week.
Cheerio. Bye. Pressing stop now. Ka-chunk. Put those cards away.